So what keeps you teaching?
It's the best way to learn. It really is. I think teaching is the number one way to learn, and then close second is building. Those are the like if you can, if I just read an article about something and I wanted to understand it more, it's quicker for me to try to explain that article to somebody, and then after that explanation comes clarity. From that clarity, I'm able to build faster. It's just a process that I have. So like, it almost is like my learning process. So like, I'm more inspired to teach when there's more things that I want to learn. And there's just been like a nonstop, pipe of information and really cool tools and innovations in the ecosystem that keep coming out that I'm super interested in. So I have to follow my process.
Welcome, everybody, to the 6th episode of the Frontend Masters Podcast. Today, we have a highly requested guest, and that is none other than Scott Moss. Scott has been a prolific Frontend Masters instructor with 25 courses. We've worked together for a long time. He has an awesome career going from the military to boot camp with Hack Reactor, teaching, open source, Netflix, etc., until he got to his current role, which is actually an investor. This one's going to be really interesting. It's a wide-ranging conversation with all sorts of twists and turns. I hope you enjoy it. Well, welcome, Scott, to the podcast.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, so first I want to kick off. You've got an epic tattoo. Can you tell us a story about it?
Oh, this one? Yeah. So, I don't know if you can see there. This tattoo it's been like 5 years in the making. I signed up for this renowned tattoo artist who mostly does tattoos out of France, like on her wait list like 5 years ago, because I was describing like, oh, I really want to get like this anime tattoo that I'm thinking of. And I filled out her form. And then one day I was in the DMV last year, or was it earlier this year? I can't even remember. And I just get a call on WhatsApp from someone in France. I'm like, who the hell is calling me in France? Like, I don't know anyone in France. I pick up. And like I can barely understand her because her accent is so thick. But she's like, "Oh yeah, you wanted the tattoo for the anime?" And I was like, "No, you have the wrong number. I have no idea who you are." She's like, "No, this is Scott, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Yeah, you wanted the tattoo like 5 years ago. I'm going to be in San Francisco. Like, come get your tattoo." And I'm like, "Oh yeah." I was like, "Yeah, let's do this." So then I met up with her, and we sat down, and I told her like what I wanted to do, and she was like all about it because these are like Rick from Rick and Morty and Goku from Dragon Ball Z are like her favorite characters. She like loves those, and she was like, "I'm going on maternity leave, so I want to do like one more tattoo that I'm really excited about before that happens." She's like, "I really love these characters, so I like skipped you ahead." She's like, "Otherwise, you would have been like two more years before you got it." So I was like, "Oh damn, I feel very honored about this." So I got the tattoo. It hurt like hell. It was the worst tattoo pain I've ever had. And I have 3 other tattoos. This was the worst one. It took 2 days, but it was worth it. It was so worth it. Like, I love it. I kind of want to finish it and have it go all the way up my arm, but for now it's good.
You'd be waiting like another 5 years.
Probably. Yeah, I'll probably wait a long time because I wouldn't want anyone else but her to do it because she specializes in this. So yeah, I'm blown away. And she killed it. I gave her like a sketch of like what I wanted and she just went with it. She just went crazy with it. So it turned out good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, another warm-up question. Are there any special skills that you have that people might not know about?
Special skills? Wow. What makes a skill special?
Or something absurd, or something. Yeah, it's just some.
Yeah.
People wouldn't know about you.
People wouldn't know about me. I don't know. I feel like I'm not that interesting. I feel like everything about me is very obvious, or I usually talk about those things. Let me see. Maybe people don't know that.
Let's see. You've got, just off the top of my head, I'm thinking games. You've got a big gaming.
I'm into gaming. I build computer. Okay, I guess people might not know. This is also, I don't know. I guess a lot of engineers might do this, but like I'm very much into like building small form factor computers. Like I like to build the smallest gaming computer that I can, accomplish while also putting in like the most advanced components in it. And then like recently over the last few years, I got into like water cooling those things, which don't ever do if you've never done it before, especially like in a small case. But like it involves like cutting tubes and bending tubes and like, making sure components have like the right capacity as far as like liquid and heating and cooling and like and all this stuff. So it's like it's a lot, but like I don't know, I kind of like it, and I've been doing it for a while now. I actually like built one for Brian and his family, and that was really cool.
That's Brian Holt.
Brian Hope. Yeah. I'm really into that. I actually just redid mine like 3 weeks ago recently because my temperatures were getting too hot. So I just like redid it for fun. And every time I do that, my partner's just like, oh God, here we go again. It's we about to do this all again, huh? I'm like, yep. So I don't know. I like doing that. So people might not know that about me, but I'm really into it.
Yeah, custom water cooled computers is pretty epic. I would say that's a special skill.
Okay, yeah, that's a special skill. Yeah.
How about anything absurd that you like doing?
Anything absurd? Well, that's a good. I'm like, wait. I feel like I don't do much now, but I think at a point in my life, I did do a lot of like action sports. So at one point, I did like skydiving and scuba diving and a lot of that stuff. Spent a lot of time skydiving. I've probably been skydiving over 50 times. So I think a lot of people don't know that about me. So it actually like doesn't bother me that much. I would say one absurd thing that I did was when I was in the Navy, I wanted to buy a motorcycle. Okay, and then my supervisor was also my best friend. Roommate had a motorcycle for sale, and it was like super cheap. So I was like, I can afford it. Let me buy it. So then he's like, yeah, I'll sell it to you. And but then they called me like the night before I was supposed to come buy it, and they were really drunk, and they're like, we're not gonna sell you the motorcycle unless you ride it back home tomorrow. And I was like, you guys know I don't know how to ride a motorcycle. I've never ridden one. Like, and I was like, well, we're not gonna sell it. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna go over there tomorrow. I'm gonna ride this motorcycle. I'm gonna ride it home. And they was like, yeah, we'll follow you. So that was the first time I've ever gotten on a motorcycle. It was in San Diego, in La Mesa. If you've ever been there, it's just like you're literally on a mountain. It's just like a mountainous area. And I hop on this motorcycle. I've never even driven a stick up until this point.
Jeez.
And I had to like ride it home on the freeway. I was terrified.
Yeah, that sounds scary.
Absolutely terrified. And they just like gave me a quick lesson before I got on the bike. And like by the time I got home, I felt like I was a pro. Like, so I felt like I was like meant for like riding a motorcycle. So that was probably like one of the most absurd things I think I've ever done in my life because so many things could have went wrong.
That's a high aptitude for learning right there.
I guess. Or just terrified.
Yeah. How about, okay, so we've worked together for a really, really long time now. Is there anything absurd that I've done? Like it's a story or something? Or weird?
Man, I think I'm just like thinking of all this stuff, all the stories. Something absurd you did. I'm trying to think of what I like. I don't know. I kind of like. I like how you thought the thing that you're doing now was absurd at one point with the gymnastics, right? I think when you started that, you were not like I could tell you were excited and you were curious about it, but I can also tell that maybe you didn't believe that like you would do it. Like maybe it was too hard, or maybe it was just like out of your range. Because I remember when you were starting the early days, you were like, my shoulders and like I can't.
Everything hurt.
Yeah, everything
constantly.
hurt. And I was like, no, man, like you got it. And it's like I was like, I don't know if he knows like he can do this. So like to see you now, it's just like doing a backflip casually or like swinging over a pole like it's nothing. That's kind of crazy, right? And like now you're trying to like work on more advanced stuff. So like seeing that has been pretty cool. I think that's probably like one of the craziest things I've like seen you overcome. I mean, there has been more for sure. I mean, you run a company, so you're overcoming crazy things all the time. But on a personal level, yeah, I think that was pretty absurd.
All right, sweet. Yeah, and I have to say you've encouraged me along the way, so that's been great. Like you were into calisthenics way before I was, and you're like, "Hey, try this, try that," and I was like,
"I just thought you might like it."
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, so you've been a big inspiration for that. So thank you. All right, so let's get into it with your early career. Growing up. You talked about the military a little bit. Could you talk about maybe growing up and maybe that decision to like go into the military, like that time period?
Yeah, so that's funny. Like my childhood's such a zigzag. I grew up in the South, mostly in Atlanta and like northern Florida, so like Jacksonville, some parts of Tallahassee sometimes. And then I mean, just to like kind of fast forward up until that point of like me making that decision, I've reached this point where like I had dropped out of high school at 15. I basically took like a year and a half off of just like not going. And like no one really, it's not like no one cared. It's like no one really stopped me. At the time, my mom was in prison, and then my dad, he wanted me to go to school. He enrolled me in school. It was just that like he was just too busy to enforce it, so I just would never go. And then like I remember the day that he found out that like I didn't go to school. I was like trying to hide in my room, and like for some reason he decides to go check all the rooms today in the morning. He never does that, and he just like pops his head in the room. He like sees me. He's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Not going to school." He was like, "Come on, I'm taking you to school." He taking me to school, and I was like, "Look, Dad, I haven't been to school one day since I enrolled." He's like, "That's bullshit. That was like 3 months ago. You telling me you haven't been to school in 3 months?" I was like, "Nope." He's like, "They would have called me." I'm like, "It's a terrible school." We went up to the high school, and I was like, "Yeah, he's been here every day for 3 months." And he's like, "Okay, yeah." He's like, "I don't blame you. I can see why you don't want to go to the school." And so he kind of agreed with me that like maybe school, at least that school, wasn't the best for me. But he's like, "You got to figure something out." And I just didn't know what it was. I didn't really know what that was. So then like at some point, I ended up moving back to Atlanta to stay with his sister, my aunt, and my cousins. And they were in a really nice school district. They had a really great school. And then somehow my aunt just convinced me to go back to school. So I went back to school, and I should have been a junior, but I was a freshman with my younger brother. So it was quite embarrassing to like just be a freshman again when I should have been a junior. And I kind of let that be the reason to like motivate me to move faster and be better. So I went from, getting all F's and failing to like passing and getting good grades. So that was a really big motivation. But then I was like, okay, I'm motivated now. I want to finish school, but it's too late for college. Like my GPA is not even a 2.0 at this point because when I dropped out, they just like failed me on all the classes for that year. So my GPA is like not a 2.0. I'm barely going to graduate. So I didn't know what a SAT was or ACT. I didn't know what any of that was. And even if I did, I didn't know anyone that went to college at this point. I mean, my sister did, but she had a full ride on the basketball scholarship. So I didn't even know what the college process looked like. So I remember I was sitting at home one day because I had skipped school and I was playing like, I don't know, like Gears of War, some video game. And like some guy like knocks on the door and he's like looking for someone else, like some of the previous tenants that stayed in that house. And I was like, nah, he's wrong house, man. And he's like, okay, whatever. He comes back and this guy's like dressed in his like full ceremony Navy uniform. He comes back and he's like, might I ask, like, are you not supposed to be in school? And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm playing a game. He's like, oh, why are you not in school? So he's asking me all these questions. I'm just like, I don't really care. I was like, I'm on this path where like I'm barely gonna graduate. I can get like all C's and just do fine. I was like, this stuff's easy. And he was like, well, can I come in and like hang out? And I was like, okay. So I let him come in and we're like playing games together. And in that moment, like he kind of convinced me. He's like, you got to start thinking more about what you want out of your future. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. So he convinced me to come down to the Navy station and like talk more about it. And then like a week later, I was signed up to go to the Navy because it made sense. Pay for my college, I get to travel. So all I had to do was just graduate school, which was a year away. So I did, and then the very next day, I went to boot camp.
Wow. And like you fixed helicopters, from what I understand.
Yeah.
It seemed like you kind of talked well of it, right? So
yeah, that was actually to this day probably one of my favorite jobs ever. Like if I just look at the function of what I was doing, like if I don't consider the people and the situation and everything, but just like the job itself, it was really cool. So yeah, my job in the military was there's different types of mechanics on helicopters. They work on different things. My specific task was like anything that related to the engine. So whether that's taking the engines apart, taking them out, the rotary systems. So we're talking like gearboxes, rotary shafts, the blades, anything that was attached to the engine. That's what I worked on. And I really loved it. Like I got so fascinated with it.
Helicopters are really cool.
Yeah, they're really, and then the ones that we worked on were these brand new, massive helicopters. They had like dual engines, and they would like drag this equipment in the water that would like look for mines or submarines, right? So it was like, and it was a brand new helicopter, so no one was skilled enough to work on it. So I was like one of the first people ever.
Wow.
And I like took that. I took that with honor. I was like, wow, yeah, I'm like one of the best mechanics on like this platform. So it was really cool. And I loved it. I learned a lot, and it's crazy like how much the Navy will teach. Like it took me 4 weeks to get qualified to work on that, and I feel like that was probably like 2 years of education crammed into 4 weeks, which is kind of insane.
That's cool. So you like proved to yourself that you could do something bigger, and you also like went to San Diego, right? You found out how much you love that area, right?
Yeah, that funny story with that. When I was in school for the Navy, which was in Pensacola, like if you graduate at the top of your class, they let you pick where you want to go with orders. I think I was like second or third in my class, so it was like, all right, Moss, you get to pick where you want to go. You know, here are the options, and I was just like, Jacksonville. I want to go to Jacksonville because my family's still in North Florida and in Georgia, so I'll be close. I'll be able to help them out. And they're like, cool, yeah, you're going to Jacksonville. And then like I got my orders the next day, you know, my actual physical paper orders, and it says like NAS North Island. I'm like, North Island? Is that in Jacksonville? And my teacher's like, oh no, that's in San Diego. I'm like, I literally said anything but San Diego. I want to go to Jacksonville. And they're like, oh yeah, that command used to be in Jacksonville, but they like relocated to San Diego like 2 years ago. I'm like, how is your information 2 years old? Like, this is insane. I was like, cool, well then just change it. And they're like, no, you can't. Once you get orders, you can't change it. It's written in blood. So I was really upset. I was really upset because I had just told everybody I'm going to stay here in Jacksonville. Like I had just like got a girlfriend who's now my partner. We have kids together now. Like I was like, I'm going to be close to her. We're just going to be there. And here I am going the opposite coast. So it was kind of a heartbreak. But then, big but, when I drove out there, I was like, okay, this place is amazing. Why am I tripping? I can't imagine being anywhere else but here now.
Yeah, you were at one point, you're like, Mark, you got to grab your family. Let's all go to San Diego.
I still believe that.
All right.
I still believe that.
Maybe someday.
Yeah,
maybe someday.
That's still the dream. Like, who doesn't want to live in San Diego?
It's a really, really cool city.
Yeah.
So then you were talking about boot camp in the military and all that stuff, but then you went to a coding boot camp, right? Out of it, right? Yeah. Like how did that transition happen, or how did you even come to like think about coding as a potential career?
a lot of the stuff in my life is just like really insane and extremely lucky. I've been very fortunate, and this is another example of just like how lucky I've been. So I think so I had a 5-year contract with the military. About 2 years in, I think I realized I knew at that point I wasn't going to re-enlist. Like I wasn't in a rush to get out, but I knew I wasn't going to re-enlist because I've seen enough at this point from just like exploring San Diego, going to LA, going to San Francisco, going to Seattle, that like there's just a better way to live than I've never seen in my entire life. And I wanted to try that. So I knew I wasn't going to stay in, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I just started like, I've always liked technology. I've always been that person that like just like to tinker with gadgets and stuff because we couldn't really afford anything. So like whenever I got something, I always just tried to like break it apart to see how it worked. Maybe I can build it myself, which is probably why I never got anything because I would break it immediately. So I always had an affinity for that. So like the next step was like, well, what if I'll do something with technology? Like I just need to learn something with technology. And then I remember just like Googling like, but I also want a happy job. So I remember like Googling like, what are like the happiest careers in the world that like have to do with technology? And it was like software engineer. And I was like, what the hell is a software engineer? So I like looked into it and I was like, well, where are these software engineers? Who's hiring? San Francisco. I'm like, wow, this is kind of cool. So I remember just like riding my motorcycle from San Diego all the way to San Francisco. Just like, I'm just going to spend the weekend there and like go to some events, go to like these tech events and see what the vibe is. And like, I fell in love with it. I was like, wow, this is like 2012. I was like, this place is great. I love this place. Like, I want to be here. There's like things that are happening here. Like young people are like creating big companies. Like some of the smartest people in the world are here. And I was like, this is where I want to be. So I knew I wanted to do that. The problem was I didn't want to go to college. I knew from my own experience that like traditional education just doesn't work for me. Like I work better just by sitting in my room and just doing self-study than I do of having like something paced out for me. And it feels almost too slow and too unnecessary. I'd rather just like focus on the things that I know I need to focus on. So I was like, I don't want to go to college. So how do I avoid that? So then I started looking into like learn to code, and then like boot camps came up. And I think at the time there was 1 or 2 boot camps in the whole world at that time. It was super early. They almost sounded like a scam. Like it legit sounded like some predatory scam.
And a lot of scams honestly came out of
and a lot of scams came out of all of that. So but
there were some there were and there are currently some
Yes.
legit ones.
Yes, exactly.
Like Codesmith, I want to
Code
shout
Smith's
out them.
Code Smith's great. Yeah, Wilson.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so like yeah, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to coding bootcamp. So I found one. I don't remember the name of this one, but I applied there, and I remember like I got on the interview. It was with the CEO too, and he was like asking me like some brain teaser of a question. It was like, I got like 2 dice on the desk, and like they got 6 sides, and I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? I was like, I thought we were going to be talking about like Ruby on Rails. I just like spent months learning Ruby on Rails for like this interview, and we're not even talking about it. So it kind of discouraged me a lot, like to like, well, I guess I'm just not cut out for this. But then I went back to the drawing board. I started like learning JavaScript on my own. I ended up meeting some folks in the community that like were doing consulting, and they would give me like small projects. So I was like already doing like paid projects as like someone just doing like little jQuery scripts or whatever. And that was really cool. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna find another bootcamp that does JavaScript. So then I found one. I applied to that one. I didn't get in. And I was like, oh man, that sucks. That really sucks. But they told me you can apply again in 6 months. And I was like, nah, I can't. I was like, I'm not applying again in 6 months. I was like, I want to apply again next week. And they were like, no, you can't. I was like, yeah, I'm going to apply again next week. And they're like, okay, we'll let you apply again next week. But if you don't get it in, you can't apply for a year. And I was like, I don't care. Let's do it. So I did. And then this time I went and drove there and did it in person after like taking off work and studying the whole time. And then I finally got into the boot camp. Now, the only problem is I was still in the Navy. I was still in the Navy, and I had a start date like November 7th, 2013 was the day I was supposed to start the boot camp. But at this time, I was in the middle of getting medically processed out. I just know they didn't give me a date. And it's like already like July, August. And I still don't have a date of when I'm supposed to get out. And I know I got to start the boot camp in San Francisco, November 7th. Second week of October, I finally get my date. And it's like, you're going to get out Halloween. So I literally got out 7 days before I was supposed to go to San Francisco to report to this boot camp. And up until then, I had no idea how it was going to work out. And it just worked out perfectly.
Wow. And that was Hack Reactor, right?
That was Hack Reactor,
okay,
yeah. It was Hack Reactor. I was like batch 8. So I was like one of their first classes ever.
Yeah, and that's like one of the most prestigious boot camps, or like, one of the legit ones, especially at that day.
At that time, yeah. They were like, just like elite level. Yeah, absolutely. It was insane, yeah.
Yeah, and then from there, I think you came out of that and you got involved in like open source and eventually teaching. Like,
yeah, that was a crazy journey. So Hack Reactor did a really good job of like surrounding the students around just like very prestigious engineers in the city. They would just come and just hang out. There was like a table that Hack Reactor just offered them space to just like come hang out and be in an environment, and like required nothing from them. I thought that was genius, because like just them being there, that presence was it was motivating. It was amazing. So some of those teachers eventually some of those engineers eventually started like teaching like guest lectures sometimes. And one of them, I really hit it off with him. He was like a computer scientist at Adobe, and like he kind of took me underneath his wing, and he was like, all right, man, like you got to start like doing some open source. You got to start doing this. And I'm like, I'm not good. Like he was like, what do you mean you're not good? He was like, you can make anything. It's just about learning it and researching. He's like, don't say that. And I was just like, oh, I never really thought about it that way. He was like, yeah, you just need to focus on research, focus on getting things out. Don't focus on what you know. And he was like, it's better to like look things up and know how to look for them versus to like remember everything. And I was like, oh, okay. And I like really
That's
clicked with me.
actually really good advice.
Yeah.
I mean, even to this day, for like, anybody listening, for sure.
It completely changed my outlook, because I had a lot of imposter syndrome around like how little I knew compared to a lot of people in my class. I just felt like they knew so much more than me. So I was like, I'll just focus on like finding answers faster. And that was my goal. And to this day, I think that's what I do best. It's just like, I can probably get unstuck really quick, but I probably couldn't like reinvent the wheel. Right. So that's kind of like that. And then, so he kind of took me underneath his wing. There were other people in the community. I had really good friends that I was in class with, or that came right before me, that were doing a lot of things in open source. So I kind of just I just dove in and started going really crazy on open source. At the time, like Angular 1 had just came out. It's like one of the first frameworks out there, and it was just like magical. And the instructor at Hack Reactor at the time, his name was Ari. He wrote like the first Angular book ever. was like Angular royalty, and I really looked up to him too. And he really liked me for some reason. So like he would like help me, like he would like tap me to like help him edit the book sometimes or like do things. And eventually like he got so big he didn't want to teach the course at HackRector anymore. So HackRector was looking for someone else to teach the course. And at the time I'm basically interning for them. I was like, do you want to teach the Angular course? Like Ari says you know Angular very well. I was like, I don't know, man. Like I don't know if I can teach it though. And I was like, you can teach it. So I ended up teaching the Angular course at HackRector, and I was like, wow, I really love this. This was really cool. So, and then I think that's when I kind of fell in love with teaching, because I realized that like I had a different way of looking at things than most instructors. I feel like most instructors were like focused on being thorough and sounding smart and like making sure they say it the right way. Whereas I was focused on like, well, how would someone who doesn't know much think of this? Right. And like try to explain it that way. So I would come up with analogies or like, oh, a better way to think about it is like this, or like, oh, let me just show you a demo. It'll make sense if you see it, versus being like, let me give you the correct computer science term of like, you know, whatever this word. I'm like, nah. We're going to focus on like practical things, and I'm going to show you a different perspective. So I think people resonated with that a lot more.
Absolutely. Cutting through the BS.
Right. So I was like, okay, maybe I should do this. And then from there, yeah, I just got every opportunity I could teach. I took it.
Sweet. So 2 questions come out of that.
Yeah.
First, people like in that early stage of boot camp or like thinking about transitioning to tech, like what would be your advice to somebody looking like to get into the profession or get into
Today?
Yeah. Be a software engineer.
Yeah. So today there's things that are so much better today, and there's also things that are so much harder today, right? So like, yes, there are like more tools out there to help you get more done. Like when I was learning to code, I mean, and you can attest to this, even before, like when you were learning to code, like I had things that you didn't have. It was just like, it felt a lot harder. The barrier to like make something impressive was a lot harder than it is now, right? You can make something impressive quite easily. The downside to that is that like everybody's making things that's looking impressive. So the bar is a little higher because it's like, oh, it doesn't take much to make something impressive now. So if you don't have anything impressive, you're not impressive, right? That's just like the minimum, barrier to entry. So I would say if you think about making that transition, I think it's less about your ability to absorb knowledge. I think it's less about your ability to like know all these things, and it's more about your ability to like demonstrate what you know. Like I think people forget that because you're learning all this, so eventually you can land a job. I think there's a few amount of people who are learning this just to learn it. They probably want to get a job at the end of this. So if that's the case, you have to demonstrate what you know. And I think that's where your hours should go. The practice of like, how do I show off the things that I'm doing? And there's many ways to do that. Like people write blog posts, they shoot videos, they obviously build things, they teach things. Whereas like if you're just sitting in your room and you're absorbing all this knowledge and you know everything about this topic, that's really not useful for getting a job. And no one knows that. No one knows that all that is in your head. And even if you had the job, you're not going to get promoted on how much you know. You're most likely going to be graded and ranked on like your output, on like what you can do. So someone who knows less but can perform better is most likely going to advance faster than someone who knows everything and takes their time with it, right? So it's like, it's all about output. So I think focusing on that is probably the big thing, which I think most boot camps kind of start with that. They start off like, all right, we just need to get some stuff done. But because you got the extra cost of like, well, everything's high quality now. Everything's easy to make high quality. So yes, focus on getting things done, but you need to find a way to make things high quality now as a standard. And then beyond that, the only real way to like kind of stand out and really break into it is like you have to talk to people. There's just no way around it. Like maybe you can play the numbers game and you can just go apply. And yeah, I don't know. After a couple thousand applications, you might get an interview and hopefully you get the job. But the reality is you're better off finding a company that you can connect with for reasons that you can point to. Is like, this mission, I believe in this mission. I resonate with it because of my background, or like I have a connection with this company through this person, or whatever it is. Like you're better off finding those companies and putting in as much effort as you can to connect with people surrounding that company and building some type of relationship before just like, I'm just going to apply like crazy and see what happens. Because I can tell you right now, every engineering job I've ever had, I don't think I've ever applied to. I've never submitted an application. It was mostly just like, they're hiring. I know my friend knows the engineering manager, so I'm gonna see if I can like get an intro, or like I'll play basketball with this guy at Uber, and Uber's hiring. Let me see if he can like make an intro for me with someone, right?
Absolutely.
And like trying to do that.
Yeah, I even think about we're hiring at Frontend Masters right now. And it's like we have thousands of resumes, and it's like, okay, well, it takes a while to like sift through those,
Right.
and we do interview from them. But it's like if somebody was like, hey, Mark, this
is the person.
This woman is amazing, or this guy is amazing.
Yep.
Like you should interview.
You're gonna prioritize that.
Yeah.
That's how it is.
Just how it is.
That's just how it is. And I try to tell people that too.
It seems like your lack of affinity for like the actual education system almost seemed to work in your favor in software engineering. Like the fact that you're like, I don't really like the learn this, then this, then this, then this. It's like, no, I just want to take it all and apply it immediately.
I just want to apply it immediately. I've never took notes. I never studied. It's not that I didn't feel like I was too smart to do it. No, I just felt that like I didn't feel like it was the best way to learn for me. It's probably because the lack of patience that I had. I was not a patient child, and I think that lack of patience worked out well for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then, you kind of talked about teaching at Hack Reactor, but like, how did you end up teaching at Frontend Masters?
Oh yeah. Oh man, I was just telling somebody that, one of the students. I think I can't remember exactly what you tweeted, but you tweeted something. I got to go back and find it. And I was already watching Frontend Masters. I was already a student. Like at this point, I was just like, this is the future of learning. It's this. This is how you learn. This is way better. It's way faster. These instructors just get on here and they're just like, all right, here's a cheat code. I'm like, fuck, this is great. I love this. So I was already a fan. And then like I'm trying to remember what you tweeted, but it was just like, oh, we're like looking for someone to make this, or does anybody know something? I don't know what it was. And I kind of responded and I was like, I can teach that.
I think it was someone on Angular, maybe.
It was something on Angular, yeah. And I was like, I can teach that. And you were like, okay, yeah, we typically like instructors that have like some type of experience, like at a conference or something like that. And I was like, okay. So then on Twitter again, I saw that Aaron Frost, who was running Angular conferences at the time, was putting together a conference. And he was like, man, I got these talk ideas, but I obviously can't give the talks as I'm running the conferences. Does anybody like want to give a talk at the conference? And I was like, I'll do it. What's the idea? He was like, really? I was like, yeah, what's the idea? And he tells me, and I'm just like, okay, I kind of like that. I don't get it though, because it was way beyond me. I didn't even know what the hell he was talking about. And he's like, no, I'm explaining to you. Like, I think you can run with this. And he like explained the idea to me of what he was trying to say. And I was like, oh yes, I do understand that. That makes sense. You're just saying it in a way that makes no sense to me because you're so much better than me. And then I was like, yeah, I would love to do that. He's like, okay, cool. Well, I can't just give it to you. You need to apply and like, do the conference application or whatever. So I did that. And then, they selected me to speak at the conference. And I remember hitting you back and I was like, hey man, I spoke at a conference. Can I teach that course? And you were like, oh, you came back. Sure. Yeah. Let's try this out. And then
I think our first call, we were joking around stereotypes of like basketball players in pickup ball, because you got like the like nerd like me that's walking in like trying to play, and then you got the like college
D1
ball
player,
D1 player. It's like dunking over whatever. Anyways, that was
I remember that. Yeah,
I was playing some pickup ball at the time, and it's his
so
characters.
Long ago, man.
Yeah, I was like, it was back in like 2014 or something.
2014,
like that. You've been teaching a long time. I looked it up. It was 25 courses since 2015.
That's crazy. 25 courses?
25 courses is 2015. Yeah. So what keeps you teaching?
It's the best way to learn. It really is. I think teaching is the number one way to learn. And then close second is building. Those are the like, if you can, if I just read an article about something and I wanted to understand it more, it's quicker for me to try to explain that article to somebody. And then after that explanation comes clarity. From that clarity, I'm able to build faster. It's just a process that I have. So like, it almost is like my learning process. So like, I'm more inspired to teach when there's more things that I want to learn. And there's just been like a nonstop, pipe of information and really cool tools and innovations in the ecosystem that keep coming out that I'm super interested in. So I have to follow my process. Check it out, teach someone about it, and then become an expert at it, right? And then fortunately for me, I've been employed in places that like adopted these new technologies. So while I'm like in the middle of like thinking about how to teach it, I am actually using it like at work, and I'm like forced to like come up with new ways around these new technologies because no one's seen them yet. And I've been fortunate enough to like been really close to some of the people creating these technologies, like working very close with the Angular team at Google, working with some of the React folks when they were doing the React things. I've been very close to a lot of those people. So like I've kind of been able to see like what they were thinking about and why they were doing it and how people might use it. So I was exposed to that, and this is where I got pretty lucky, and it just got me really excited. And I was like, okay, I don't know how change detection works, but like I'm sure if I like taught someone how it worked, I would understand it. So it was kind of that thought process.
Absolutely. Yeah, it reminds me of the ability to teach really is what drew my career together. I feel like why I got a lot of the really cool projects and stuff, because they're like, oh yeah, put him in charge of this project because like he'll, it's like raising the tide for everyone. I always love to teach the people around me, like whenever I learn something or whatever. And it really did feel like that brought me some really excellent like consulting projects and opportunities. And so, and then obviously you and I resonate on that greatly, like that ability to teach and then that providing opportunity. And I think that's awesome that paid off for you in your career, and obviously still to this day. I mean, you just taught like 2 in the last couple of months, so we'll definitely get into that more. But any advice for people who are looking to get into teaching? I know you kind of talked about it, alluded to it with getting people into tech and mentoring them, and their ability to demonstrate what they know. I think there's a lot of people that are interested in it.
I think one thing I was actually talking to my nephew about this. He was like, man, I want to start teaching. And I'm like, okay, do it. Like, what's stopping you? Like, there's no barrier. Like, just start teaching. But I think a lot of it, a couple of things, and I had it early on too. And some of the time I still do have it. It's mostly just like worry too much about how people will perceive me and whether or not they'll find what I'm teaching to be valuable. And I put too much, I put too much emphasis on that. I think it does matter, but at the same point, it shouldn't matter. That should only matter when you're trying to like optimize what you're teaching. It shouldn't be the reason why you don't teach, though, right? So like I let that be a barrier for me for a long time of being like, well, I just watched this other course. This person's way smarter than me, so like I can't teach that. I can't teach if that's the bar. I can't teach that way. So I had to get past that, and then 2, I had to think about like what is the perspective that I'm adding to the conversation. Like I didn't want to be just the same opinion and the same words in the pool of many people saying the same thing. So I was like
parroting everybody else.
Exactly. So I was like, I want to create a different perspective. And for me, that just meant me just being myself, which I think for a lot of people is really hard. It's hard to do because it is hard for me sometimes just to be myself. Because you have to trust yourself. You have to trust that like you won't say anything that you shouldn't say. You have to feel confident in the material that you're teaching, so like you can actually say it and it's helpful for people. So it was really those 2 things that I had to get past. So when I tell people now, I'm just like, if you really want to teach, then I think what you need to do is you need to start by teaching yourself first. So I always say like, I don't know, shoot a video of yourself teaching it and then go take that course and then see what comes from it, right? Through that experience, I bet you're going to learn a lot about what you're teaching probably. And then 2, also yourself and how you deliver things. And I was like, after that, like you can kind of get a feeling on whether or not this is something you truly want to do or if it's something that like just sounds nice. And then if it is something you truly want to do, then from there, I think you just need to try to, put as much content as you want to out there because it's free. You can do it. There's nothing stopping you. And just see how people respond to it. Like there's an audience for everybody. So people might like your style. Like for instance, I love Primogen. Like his style is great. I have so many of my friends right now that are learning to code and it's like, do you know this guy like Primogen? I'm like, do I know this guy? Like come on. Like of course I know him. Like he's amazing. And it's because he's just him. That's just his style and it works. And like he's not afraid to be himself. Whereas, like, I think a lot of people are afraid to do that. They're too worried about what they're going to look like. So do that. Put more stuff out there. Find your audience. Listen to your audience. And then just like explore more opportunities, like hit up Mark from the CEO of Frontend Masters, like do things like that, slide in his DMs, and try to see what opportunities you can make from it.
Yeah, that authenticity to who you are.
Yeah.
If you like stick to it, whatever. So it's like not only will it resonate with people that are learning, but it really does draw the right people to you. You said you've met a lot of people through teaching, and they like your style, they want to work with you, that kind of stuff. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then after teaching, and I know you're in open source and you did consulting and all that kind of stuff, but then you kind of took this startup route, right?
Yeah,
you raised a VC and you kind of went through that. Is there any like takeaways from that period of your life that you could share, like learnings?
When hearing you talk about it, I just started to remember like the most stressful time of my life, like coming back, but like not in a bad way. It's like it's like lifting weights. Lifting weights, it's physically and mentally stressful. Well, I don't mean it's bad. Like you know that going into it, and you want the growth, so you're willing to pay the cost to lift those weights and deal with that stress to get the growth that you want.
Yeah, nobody's like, oh, I'm going to start a company. It's going to be easy.
Yeah.
Or if you are, you're in the wrong place.
You're in the wrong place. I was like that early on.
Okay.
Early in my career, I was like, it's breeze, man, starting a company. But by the time I started this company, this was the second company I started at this point. So this is the third company I started at this point. So the first two, I kind of knew what to expect. But I think for me, so basically what happened was I had a consultancy before I started that company. And we worked with a lot of Fortune 500 companies that had like huge, massive problems that we would just fix on repeat. Like this company needed the same fix as this company. And we were like, there's some common stuff here. Like we should just build like a product around this. And at the same time, I was also very burnt out on working with these companies because the culture at these companies were just very toxic, like extremely toxic. Like even though my dev shop was doing very well. I should have just stayed with it if I'm just looking at it from like a successful standpoint. Like it would have kept doing very well, but like
your consultancy.
Yeah, it was doing great, but like I just couldn't deal with it anymore. It was stressing me out. Like I was having mental issues, like having to deal with like clients that were paying a lot of money. I was like, I should be thankful. I should be happy that they're paying me a lot of money, but I was miserable.
If you're not working with the right people, you can, that resentment creeps in and then it gets bigger, and then it becomes something that should be a good working relationship. It becomes a source of stress.
It was extremely stressful. And then having to manage, I hired all my friends, which was good and bad because we had great times, but like having to be their boss, man, that was so stressful. It definitely
changes the dynamic.
It does. It changes the dynamic because like when I had to get serious, it's like, oh, okay, excuse me, boss.
You're big, Scott Moss, big boss man now all of a sudden.
So it was weird. So I was like, all right, I don't want to do this. I want to do something more passive. Let's start a software company. Let's solve the problem that all these companies did. So we did that, me, my brother, and a good friend of mine. And then I was like, crazy idea. Like, what if we like go to YC and like try to do this YC thing?
Yeah, that's right. You went to Y Combinator.
Yeah. So we applied, but actually, I remember like reaching out to. At the time, I was following Justin Kahn, one of the co-founders of Twitch, on Snapchat. I just followed him. I thought he was a cool guy. I still think he's a cool guy. And I don't know. I always just like threw jabs at him on Twitch, like or on Snapchat over the years. I'd be like he'd like have his music playing. I'm like, that's not good music. Here's good music. Or like he'll be lifting weights. I'm like, your form's not good. Here's how you correct it. Like just throwing jabs at him. And I don't know if he noticed I was the same person doing it, but he would respond sometimes. And then one time I just straight up hit him. I was like, hey man, thinking about applying to YC. You got any advice for me? He was like, you should just email Michael Seibel, who at the time was the CEO of YC, and just tell him like what you're thinking. And I was like, all right. So I did. I sent Michael Seibel this long email about like what we're thinking about doing, why we want to apply. And he responded like almost instantly. And I was like, oh my God, Michael Seibel responded. That's amazing. And it was just like one sentence. He was just like, too long, didn't read it. Click this link. And I was like, what? And I clicked the link and it was a blog post that he wrote on his blog about how to email him. And I was like, oh, okay. I sent the email too long. So I like sent a shorter email. I was like, okay, cool. Sounds cool. You should apply. And I was like, oh, okay. So we applied, and I remember like having to do like the interview prep with my brother and my friend. And it was was crazy because they're not as extroverted as me. So they were like super nervous, and we did it. And then somehow we got into YC, and that was 2017. So, and then after we graduated.
Also kind of in the height of YC in a way.
Yeah, it wasn't
a lot of like good batches around that time period, right?
Yeah, there were a lot of good batches. We had like companies like Brex come out of there. There were a lot of really big companies coming in and out of YC at that time. So it was very intimidating for us. And we were super early. Like we only had like a little prototype built, but we had like a lot of people sign up for the wait list, like a lot of big customers potentially. And yeah, we went through that. We learned a lot. I think most of the advice was we were just too early for a lot of the advice. And honestly, we didn't know anything about running that type of business. So a lot of it was really over our head at the time. But we did find a lot of value in helping the other folks in our batch, because we had been through different situations that were helpful for them, because we've had started other businesses before. So like a lot of them didn't know what to do with their money, or like they didn't know how to talk to like serious business people, where I'm like, I've been talking to serious business people for the last 5 years. Like I can help you with this contract or how to negotiate and things like that. So we found value in that, which really helped us out because we grew a massive network, which eventually went on to like, you know, some of those folks now, like for instance, Amjad from Replit, he was in our batch. And, you know, he was a really good friend of mine in that batch. And to this day, I mean, look at him now. Replit's super successful. He's doing great. And it was just like being able to interact with people like that was very useful for us.
Cool. So do you have any advice for like founders who are thinking about doing YC or starting that route, or the path?
Yeah. It's you need to prepare for the long run. There's no short game with this, right? Like there is no like we're gonna start a company and then like we're gonna find major success and we're gonna be good in like 5 years. If you're not in it for at least 10 years plus, this isn't for you. It's the long game, because even 10 years is fast. That's a good success. So accept that the early days are gonna be miserable on all fronts, most likely, and the only reward is progress, right? That's the only reward that you have. So you have to make progress in order to make the misery worth it, because it's going to be bad. You're probably not going to get paid as much as you do now. You're going to be working way more than you work now, and you're going to be responsible for everything. And responsibility stresses people out, right? That's like one of the number one stressors. So
I always think about the number one thing people want is freedom. And then once you get the freedom of being a founder, you're like, okay, now
can I get a boss now? Yeah.
Like, can you tell me what to do next?
Can you tell me what to do next, please? I need a boss. Can I hire you to be my boss? Like,
the exact thing that you want ends up being the actually hardest thing about it. But
exactly, yeah. So that was tough. But yeah, so I would say you need to accept that. And then, you know, as far as like getting into YC and stuff, I think, you know, the thing about YC is that like, I mean, they're at the end of the day, they're a venture fund too. I mean, they're accelerated, but they're also investing in you, and they're hoping you're going to be big. So, you know, focus on the market. Make sure the market that you're going out there is attainable. It's big. You know, you have a reason why it's the right time, and you're the right people to go after it. I wouldn't focus so much on the product itself. It's not as important. It's mostly the team and the market. That's really important. And then really think through that and what makes you special there and why now. And then just apply. You know, most founders have to apply 2 or 3 times. You know, I applied to YC 3 times before we got in over the span of like 7 years. So it took a while to get in, but you know, it happened.
Nice. And so let's talk about some of the decisions you've like made as far as tech. You know, I think you were early on to Angular, and you know, I think you made a lot of good decisions. And I think recently, we were just talking about it today, how like you were like really early on in choosing Next.js, and you know, I have to take the L on that because like it didn't come on my radar until fairly recently, and those courses are doing extremely well. So how did like Next.js get on your radar, and what excited you about it?
Yeah, I think it goes back to like the early days when I was doing, I refrain to say a lot of work on frameworks, because I was never doing a lot of work on frameworks. But back when I was more active with the folks that were doing a lot of work, like on the Angular team, you know, they would include me in meetings sometimes. They would ask my opinion about things sometimes. They respected me in the community. At one point I was working with like, I think his name was Matthias. He did a lot of the animation stuff on Angular 1, and I did a lot of animation stuff. So we were working together at one point. And I think I learned like what a good team looks like when it comes to like making frameworks. So like, fast forward to I'm working on my startup now, and part of that was us like kind of partnering with like other dev products in the space, and Vercel was just a big one. Like, I mean, I think they were still called Zeit at the time. They weren't even Vercel yet. Like, that's how long ago it was. And then, Guillermo, the CEO of that company, he was just a cool guy. I've known him. We had the same investor. We kind of connected, and just like we were trying to partner with them, and just sinking into how he thinks about building products was something that like, it was something that I always thought, but I never could say aloud because I thought it was wrong, right? Like focusing on an experience and then like walking backwards from that, and like not sacrificing the experience for the technology. Whereas I think like before that, most people would just be like, yeah, this is the technology we're going to pick. Let's build an experience around that. And that was just the way you did it. But like he didn't. He was like, no, this has to feel and look good and has to be this way. I don't care if it is for developers. Just because it's for developers, I don't mean it should feel bad. It should feel great. And then whatever technology we got to use to make that happen, that's what we'll do. And I was like, yes, that is amazing. And then like, those are the same folks making Next.js. Mm-hmm. So I just knew that a person like that, who's like putting resource into a framework like that, it's going to be the most well-loved framework out there, right? So I was like, okay, well, let's see what the adoption looks like. And then, I think it was right around when React kind of made it a big deal to do like server-side React. And I've seen this play out with Angular. I've seen how this worked with Angular before. So I know exactly like what's going on. And I was like, this is going to be huge. A lot of enterprise companies are going to use this. This is going to be massive. But no one knows how to do this. No one knows how to like take React and do server-side React. And here comes Next.js is like, here, we kind of solved it for you. And I was like, if that team is solving server-side React, this is going to blow up, because React is used by everybody, not just, startups. It's enterprises too. So once I saw that, I was like, this is the future of React. No one's ever going to use regular React again. Like, why would you? And then I saw myself never using regular React again. I was like, this is just way better. So that's when I think I knew, it was like, okay, yeah, this is the framework. This was around like 2018, 2019 when I started like using it a lot more. I switched over from Vue to using that. And then it just got better. They kept the pace. They kept updating it. It got easier. It got simpler.
Yeah, on that note, it has been a little bit bumpy, hasn't it?
Yes.
We've definitely had to do a bunch of Next.js courses. And,
yes, we did.
And Next.js Conf is coming up, so I'm sure they'll change a bunch of things.
Yes.
But we've been on top of it. You've been on top of it, and you've been an advocate of it, and those courses have been super popular. So
yeah,
I have to give you the W on that one.
Thank you.
I'm picking that. Yeah, and what would you tell someone if they're considering choosing like Next versus, say, some like Ruby on Rails or something else that has been around for a long time?
I'm always in the camp of choosing the thing that has the path of the least resistance. So if you're way better at Ruby on Rails than you are at Next, you should probably choose Ruby on Rails, in my opinion, because the goal is to get something done. And if you're going to get something done faster with this technology, get it done. So that's my vote. Now, if it's more than just you and you're at like a company, you have a team to consider, and that's different, then I would probably look at it from I'll say like basically the way that like I advise some of the companies now that we invest in when they're thinking about hiring the engineers, because a good question they always ask me is like, how do I know if I need a senior engineer or a mid-level or a junior? Like, how do I know? And I'm like, it basically comes down to two things. The complexity of the thing that you're building. Like if you're building like a CRUD dashboard, chances are you don't need someone senior. But it also comes down to like, what does the research yield for this technology, right? Like if you're using like Phoenix and Elixir, I don't know, there's like 2 courses in the whole world for that technology. Yeah, so that person has to be senior. There's not a lot of resources for them to get help. Mm-hmm. But if you're looking at something like React or Next.js, there's a boatload of resources out there, including the courses that like we taught. So chances are they'll have the resources to improve and get better. So you don't really need someone senior. So I think when you're choosing those, technologies, you should think about the resources that are available to the people on your team that are going to be using it. And you probably want to pick the one that has the best, updated, more frequent resources, because chances are they'll be supported for free because those resources aren't created by you and your team, the lifespan of your app. Whereas if you pick something that isn't, then like, that's where you start looking like, we got to hire an expert on this, or we got to bring in a consultant to do this because no one knows how to do this. So that's kind of how I think about it.
Yeah, and you just said something, companies we invest in, which is interesting because, you kind of took a different path, right? Like over the last, I don't know, was it 12, 24 months?
It's 2 years now.
2 years
2 years now.
Okay,
2 years this month.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So yeah, you took like kind of a different path. Could you talk about that, like into?
Yeah. So after my startup, after we shut it down after about 3 years, we ran it through COVID, and we reached a point where we were like, we have enough money where we can try again. Like we basically all of our efforts and our plans at that point didn't materialize, mostly because we didn't know what we were doing. I'll be honest, we just didn't know what we were doing. A lot of it though was also that like we bet on COVID not being a serious thing and the world returning to normal because a lot of our efforts were based off like doing things in person. Like we had like a lot of developer conferences and things, all those got canceled. So, and we just were not good enough to like move quickly and adopt new different strategies. So we just kind of bit the bullet. And at that point we were just really burnt out. We lost a co-founder at that point. Like he's alive. He didn't die, but he like left the company. We were just burnt out. So we were like, all right, let's just not do this anymore. Let's just kind of end it. So we wrapped it up. And then I was thinking about like what's next for me. And, I always wanted to work at a company that had a lot of impact on people and that I can be an impact there. And there was no better company than Netflix. So I ended up working at Netflix, was fortunate enough to go work there and probably like one of the best teams at the time. I worked on the team that like came up with like the new ideas at Netflix and like got to like A/B test them and like prototype them. It was like the perfect job as an engineer. It's like you just get to come up with all the stuff that might be on here in 2 years. So like I knew everything that was coming to Netflix before anyone knew that it was coming, and they had a lot of cool stuff coming there. So I felt very privileged to work there. And then soon after starting, I went on paternity leave because we had our daughter, and I think a lot of things changed for me in that paternity leave because up until that, I have a son who's 13 now, so he's much older. But I wasn't around for a lot of his childhood. Like him and his mom and I just like were not together, and that was also when I was like learning to code. So like I actually benefited from, not having any responsibilities. But I missed out on that time, right? And I felt that like it's not that like Netflix was working me hard. No, it was a great place, but like I still felt consumed by my work because I liked it and I wanted to do it. And like, I didn't know any other speed, but to go really fast and just to really get in there. And I didn't want to miss out on life with my daughter. So I started like exploring, is there different opportunities out there for me? I mean, even Netflix encourages you, like, you should go apply somewhere else every year to see how valuable you are. They literally encourage you to do it. So I was thinking about that. And so I landed on the point of like, oh, you know what? Maybe I'll do like angel investing. Like maybe I'll invest my own money in some YC startups. Maybe that'll be good. But then I realized I don't have any idea how to invest. So the only person that I knew in my network that was an investor was this guy named Gary Tan, who, as you know, is the CEO of YC today, and also started the firm that I work at now. And I remember just emailing Gary, and I was like, hey, man, I'm trying to learn to invest or whatever. And he emailed me back. He was like, yeah, that sounds cool. He's like, we're hiring. Like, you should just apply. And I'm like, I don't want to be a VC. I just want to like learn how to invest my own money. He's like, oh, you might be good at it. You never know. I was like, okay, whatever. If you say so, Gary. And then I applied, and through a rigorous interview process, they offered me a job, and I was just like shocked, very shocked, because one, I never thought that I'd be a VC, because I always thought VCs were like the worst people up until that point. I was like, these are the worst people on the planet. Like, I don't want to be a VC. And to some degree, there are some VCs that are that way. So
yeah, I still think that.
Yeah.
Aside from you,
there are a lot of VCs that are that way.
All right.
This firm was different because everybody on our firm is just like, they all come from startups and backgrounds. They're all builders. Like none of them are like finance people. They're just builders that like to make things. And they have like a really good track record. So I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. So yeah, I ended up just doing that. And I think what really sold me was, one, the team was just better than any team I've ever seen. But two, I actually pitched this firm that I work at now for my startup in 2017 through a referral from Kurt from Fly, the CEO of Fly.io, who was a good friend of mine, who my firm I work at now invested in. And I was like, yeah, Kurt, like I heard good things about Initialize. Like I wanted to be my investor. And then he was like, okay, I'll make an intro. So he did. And, they took the pitch, and like they said no for a lot of reasons. One, I didn't have it together, but two, like economically, it just didn't make sense because we already had a lead investor. And but the feedback they gave me was like so impactful and so helpful and like so considerate. I can tell they spent time thinking about it, whereas every other VC either ghosted me or it was just like a weird interaction. Whereas like they didn't. So those are the two reasons why I was like, yeah, I think I could work here. You know, I can learn from the best, and I don't regret it. It's been amazing. Like, I love it.
Sweet. So so you've been a VC for a couple years, and you kind of like got into AI, right, in this time period. Obviously, it's AI. Every Twitter, that's all they talk about. But could you maybe talk about like what excited you about it, and like why? Because I think you focus on investing a lot in AI startups.
Yeah, I do.
Right, so,
I spend a lot of my time on a lot of the AI deals that come across my firm. I'm usually involved in some way, somehow, or at least I'm looking at it. But we get a lot of inbound. So I think what happened there was like me being one of the technical people there at the firm. It kind of makes sense to have someone technical looking at this stuff. But even before this hype cycle of AI kind of like had its moment, I was already like somewhere on my list of things to do years ago, I added like, I want to go back and become like a machine learning engineer. This was something that I always wanted to do. It was like the only thing about engineering, software engineering, that I did not understand. It was machine learning. And I was not okay with that. I was like, I need to know how this works. I don't need to be good, but I don't want this to be scary for me anymore. So it was always something that I was, trying to figure out. And I remember when GPT-2 came out, and fortunately for me, I had just learned Python. So I was like, oh, this seems really cool. And like it could like generate like some text and stuff. It was like not that good of a quality, but it was like still really good. And like I use it to like generate like fake test data and stuff like that. And I thought it was just really cool. I was like, wow, this is the future, and things can get better. And then fast forward, a few years later or whatever, I'm into gaming. I have like this crazy good GPU that can like do really crazy stuff. And then Stable Diffusion comes out, which is like a text to image thing. And it's like, it's open source. You need a GPU to run it. I'm like, I have a GPU. I can run this. And then like, I got really obsessed with that. I got really obsessed with like pulling this lever, changing this setting, training this thing. And like, I mean, you saw the stuff I was posting in Discord. Like I was just like completely obsessed with this. And I was just like, wow, this is amazing. And then from there, that's when everything kind of kicked off. There's a new startup every hour. There's somebody doing this. There's somebody doing that. And then naturally, I just kind of got into like the rest of the stuff, the LLMs like GPT and all that stuff. And it just became like an obsession of mine of just like trying to stay up to date with it, playing around with it, and just, being able to hold a conversation to the really intelligent people that were coming across, our emails and pitching us these opportunities. I wanted to make sure that like they felt well received on the other end, that like we know how this technology works, and we're not just like finance people that they're just trying to like, take your money by giving you money, right? So that was always a big purpose for me. And my firm supports it. They do a good job of keeping me updated on a lot of this stuff and like showing me things and giving me the opportunity to educate myself further. And it's like a perfect relationship.
Sweet. And then you're still able to teach. So you taught Next.js with AI, AI-powered Next.js app and AI-powered Node app. So we'll see how well that Node one does.
We'll see how well the Node one goes. Yeah. I think people need to know how to use these technologies for the future, and it starts now. And I know that because the companies that I work with, they're still early, so they're not actively looking for people who know how to use AI. But I can see the trend in the type of people that they're looking for. It's less about like traditional front end or back end. It's more about product people, engineers that can build like full solutions, but also think about the product in a way where they're like semi-product managers. And to me, that just translates to like, it's less about the technology. It's more about like the thing that they're making. And nothing assists better than AI. So I feel like all roads lead to that eventually. So I'm very curious to see how that works out.
Yeah, you're talking about product engineer. That's an interesting word that I've never really heard put together, but I think it makes a lot of sense. Like I always think of solving the user's problem is like starting from there. And that's why I got super excited about UI and UX development. Why I focused on the UI was like, I wanted the product to feel good. So product engineer, that's interesting. So like you were talking about the future. What do you think our jobs are going to look like? like as its AI impacts more of it, you know?
Yeah, I think it's easy to see it as like, well, there might not be junior engineers in the future. If you think about it from that, I don't think that's how it works. I think the way it works is that like what a junior engineer looks like in the future is way different, right? It's like you still will have levels to how well of an engineer someone might be, because you can't tell me someone with 1 year of experience is going to be just as good as someone with 10 years of experience. I don't care what tool they're using. A person with more experience is always going to be better, you know, unless the 1 year person is just like some savant, some like, you know, like Rain Man person that just knows this stuff very well.
Like a guy who can jump on a motorcycle, learn it that day, and go across the country.
I guess. I guess.
Right,
yeah. So, so like, I still think that's going to be the case. I just think that, and this is what I was saying earlier, the barrier to entry to get that job is going to be, so you got to think about it like this. Where you need to be in the future to get a job, and I was telling Tanner this earlier, it's like if you approach the three-way intersection in your car, and like you look to the left, you're at a stop sign, and there's like a motorcycle like all the way down there. It's very far. So you think you're good. So you go ahead and you turn right. And then boom, the motorcycle hits you. And it's like, because you didn't account for how fast it was coming. It was far, but it is moving really fast. And I think that's what's happening now. Like, yes, I think there's still a long ways to go before some junior engineer is really, really good. But how quickly they get there is way faster than ever. You could be really, really good in like 2 months versus like 2 years because of just like everything that's available to you. You can do impressive things way faster now. So I think the future is about the bar being higher on like what is impressive and what you use to achieve that, because everything looks good. Like you have like traditional B2B SaaS apps where like making it look good didn't matter. They all look amazing now. Like there's no reason why something shouldn't look good and shouldn't work good now, because it's basically free. So I think the future is very much that, which means as an engineer, you need to learn how to use these tools very well. They have to be effective. Like you being able to find, like take someone who's like is just learning and watch them go through Stack Overflow, and then take someone who's been using Stack Overflow for 10 years. It's a different story. The ones who's used for 10 years, it's like they know where the answer is. They go there and they're like, and copy paste. It's like, you didn't even read that. How do you know that was the answer? Trust me, I know it was the answer. I glanced at the stars. I saw the check. It was like the second answer. Like they just know. And I think that's how it's going to be with these tools. It's like, yes, AI can do a lot of this stuff, but that doesn't mean you can get the best out of it. Right? You still need to be really good at interfacing with these tools. And then the other thing is that like, I do think there's going to be some sort of automation in which you don't need an engineer for anymore. And I think that's inevitable. I've seen it. I've seen companies making it. I've been blown away by some of them. They're coming. It's happening. But that doesn't mean that there won't be engineers. There's just going to be a different need, because at the end of the day, the AI can write code, but programming is something that it's not good at. Programming is like solving the problem in your head. Code is just one output of programming. There's many ways to output. You can take the programming that's in your head and draw a diagram. You can write an app. You can write an essay. You can. There's so many ways to output the programming that you solved in your head, and I don't think AI is going to be solving that anytime soon. It just helps you write the code, which is very useful and allows you to focus more on programming. So I think we'll start to see more sophisticated applications as a result.
In a way, I almost think about people who are super talented at something right out of the gate, but like where to place that talent, right? You've seen people who are given everything, like they're given the genetics, they're given the mind, and they just waste it, right? Because they're not actually applying themselves to other things that people care about, right? And I guess that's kind of my view with some of these tools. It's like they give you superpowers, but like, can you use them to actually solve other people's problems?
That's true. That is true. Yeah, I think AI is going to waste a lot more time, but before it saves a lot more time. So I think we're still in that phase. So it's not at the point now where it's just like everything's net positive. Like it's so cool and novel that people are just doing useless things with it. So it's not. It's like we're neutral. Like it's not really. It is AI is it's a table stake. It's not something that's going to change your business. It's not something that's going to make you win. But not having it is something that could help you lose. Right. So it's like, all right, you're going to start a company without, I don't know, you're going to start a social network app and not have a mobile version of it. Like, good luck. Like you would never do that today. Whereas, no, maybe that wasn't that big of a deal when MySpace was out. You didn't really need a mobile app, right? You couldn't. So it's just a table stake now. So I think that's mostly it. And then at that point, I don't think it's going to get exponentially better that it replaces engineers entirely.
Got it. Yeah, I found a lot of use in summarizing.
Yeah, it's great for that.
It's really, really good at summarizing.
Yeah.
What are you excited about? I mean, is there any kind of personal or professional or personal, bucket list item?
Yeah.
Next couple of years, next 5 years.
A couple of things. I'm excited for my son, who's 13 now, and which, he's 5 years away from being an adult. That's insane to think about. Because when we met, Hendrix was a little kid, right?
Yeah.
And now he's 13. So I'm excited to see him as an adult. It's a very exciting time for him. And it's also kind of sad because I'm just man, what would life look like with him not here? So that's in 5 years. So I constantly think about that. I'm also very excited about just this next phase in life for me. I'm not in my 20s anymore. I'm 33. I'm trying to figure out what's next for me and what that next phase is. I can feel myself going through a transition of as far as the things that I want, the things that I care about, how I want to spend my time. And I'm being more aware of it. I'm being more secure with my time and less about just doing frivolous things because I'm whatever. I got all the time in the world. And I still feel I have a lot of time, but it's just I want to make sure I use it very, very wisely. So I'm excited about what that looks like practically for me. Do I get more organized as a person? Because I'm not an organized person. So I get excited. Maybe I become the to-do list guy where I just have a list of things that I do and I stick to it. That sounds exciting. So stuff like that. I'm also excited about the future of my career. Having to essentially start over as a VC. I have a long way to go. There's a lot of potential for me to do a lot of things, and I'm very excited about that because I think initially at first I was a little concerned. I was well, I've done all this hard work. I've reached the top of my industry. Do I really want to hit reset now? And that was hard. I remember panicking a little bit, and Brian could tell you about this. I remember having to call him and am I making the right decision? I don't know, is this the right thing I should be doing? And he reassured me that yeah, I think so. I think you need to do this because it felt like I was hitting reset and it felt like I was giving everything up that I did previously. But then, he helped me frame it in a way that nah, man, you're just using it in a different way now. And that made sense. So I'm very excited about that future and what that looks like. Is it me being some legendary VC in San Francisco, or is it me being this very technical investor that just you want to go to when you are doing something technical? I don't know. I'm just curious to see who I become in that area. And yeah, those are the things that I'm looking forward to in the next 5 years.
Yeah, well, I'd say even hearing your story in this podcast episode, it's you get something in your head, you're maybe I can do that.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Let's who's the best at that? I'll reach out to him, and it seems to always work out for you. So
it does.
Yeah. So I'm incredibly excited about your future as well, and I'll always be here, man.
Hell yeah.
It's been a pleasure to talk to you, and I think it's a good place to wrap up. So
okay, cool. Thanks, everybody.
All right, peace. Yeah. Hey there, before you go, don't forget we're new at this. So any feedback, whether it's a like or subscribe, we'll take those, or a comment about what you didn't like or what you'd like to see more of in the future. We'll definitely incorporate that into the next episodes. I'm really enjoying these conversations. So any type of feedback would be fantastic, and especially sharing it with your friends and colleagues. So really appreciate it. Thanks for listening. See you in the next one.